AITA for not changing my baby's name again after I changed it for my sister once already? All names are fake. I have a 9-year-old daughter. And another on the way. I had 2 grandmothers, Annie and Rose. I named my oldest, Annabelle, after Nanny Annie, whose full name was also Annabelle. I did not name her after Nana Rose as at the time she was born. Nana Rose was still with us. When I found out I was pregnant with a second, I decided to name her after Nana Rose, who passed in 2017. My sister, Lucy, got pregnant about 5 months before me. She says that she wants to name her baby Rose after Nana Rose. I say our kids can share the name. She says I already have Annabelle, and I could have named her Annabelle Rose or something but passed up the chance. So I can't also have Rose. I figure this is not the hill to die on. So I say I'll look for something else, but reserve the right to use Rose. I then crack open a baby book, and a few entries after Rose is Rosalie. It's perfect. Honors Nana Rose. Doesn't piss off Lucy. And my boyfriend loves it. Lucy finds out the new name and says it's lovely and she approves. Which annoys me, but I say nothing. This all takes place in the 8th month of her pregnancy. 3rd month of mine. So I don't even know the gender yet, and this is all hypothetical. A couple weeks later Lucy gives birth. A few days ago, about a month after birth, she announces that her daughter's name is Rosalie. At this point, I'm really annoyed, because I went to great lengths to leave the name Rose available. And she's nicked my choice. Mom calls me to say she knew what Lucy was planning and she hopes I'm not upset, because this means I can now name my incoming daughter Rose. Except I'm now attached to Rosalie. I tell Mom that I'm sticking with Rosalie. She says Lucy has Rosalie. I say there's going to be 2 Rosalies in the family. She says this is impractical as both Rosalies will have the same surname. Sister is a single mom. Boyfriend is taking my name. And they will likely be in the same school and year group. So this will cause all manner of issues. I say if it's going to be an issue, then I'll deal with it when it comes up. Lucy then calls me, calling me an inconsiderate prick, and says I'm being petty, that I don't have a monopoly on the name, and that she can name her kid what she likes. I said that's all true. So by that same logic I can use Rosalie. She says there can't be 2 Rosalies, as it'll cause problems. And I say she's the one who has a problem with it. So she can change her kid's name or deal with it. She again called me an inconsiderate, spiteful ass, and hung up. Mom, Dad, and our brother all side with Lucy. AITA? Edit. I appreciate the alternate name suggestions that stem from Rose, Ali, and I do find reading them interesting. But I did say that all names are fake. So, in the nicest way possible, Rose, Ali, inspired names aren't really helping me lol. Also, it has been confirmed I'm having a girl. NTA, but I wish people would stop telling others what names they choose. NTA, but honestly your first mistake was giving in and negotiating with your emotional terrorist sister. Because this could cause issues for your daughter. Think of her in this. For example, what if cousin Rosalie posts something inappropriate on social media while your Rosalie is looking for a job? Of course. This happens to unrelated people, but these the 2nd of May look alike and will be from the same area. And your Rosalie, along with her cousin, will have to deal with the irritating consequences of having the exact same name at the same school. I don't think you're thinking about your daughter here, only how mad you are at your asshole sister. I've watched my father and a friend of mine deal with having the exact same name as their cousin. And it ranges from an annoyance to an actual problem. The job example happened to my friend. Don't make your daughter the other Rosalie to your sister's original Rosalie. It's not fair to her. I know I'm in the minority here, but I do feel that after your firstborn, a conversation should have been had with your sister as to what would happen if either of you were to have another daughter. Given you'd already taken one grandmother's name. If not then, at least when she became pregnant. From my understanding here, there were only 2 grandmothers to both of you, and you've intended to claim both their names, without considering if your sister wanted to honor them also. I agree that going ahead with the plan to name your daughter Rosalie would cause a lifetime of confusion should they stay in the same city, and would personally urge you to reconsider the name. Maybe your husband as some sweet grandparents in his life? And add Rosalie as a middle name? However, your sister was also wrong to take the alternate name you had come up with, and it seems very petty of her, and even your mother, who seemingly knew but decided to not let you in on her knowledge until after the birth. Are we just going to ignore the first half of this story, in which OPs decides she wants the name Rose after her sister was already pregnant and already said she wanted the name? OP totally tried to push her sister into letting her have Rose, even though the sister claimed it first, not to mention, both these grandmothers were the sister's grandmother too. I don't think it's unreasonable for OP to get one grandma name, and her sister to get the other. That said, obviously it was an move for the sister to then turn around and steal the new name OP picked out. Maybe it was out of revenge. Who knows? At any rate, both of them at least tried to steal names from each other. So they both suck. If you keep the name, hear me out. Don't change the name for your sister. Do it for your daughter. You don't want her name to be evidence of your sister's petty schemes. You may think it's no big deal to have the same name as someone else, but it's definitely going to cause issues. Don't do it, it's not worth it. Give your daughter her own name, and don't feel like you're backing down from your sister, but rather stepping up for your daughter. Do the right thing. Unpopular, but I'm going with YTA. First, you attempt to take both grandma names without even consulting your months ahead of you pregnant sister, then get flippant when your sister wants to use her grandmother's name for her child. Then, you crack open the old Google. Type in name alternatives to Rose. See Rosalie in the search results without even needing to click on a website, and call that great lengths to accommodate your sister, when honestly she's the one with a strong case for first dibs on the name, with her baby coming first and you already having a grandma name. After all that, you're annoyed that your sister approves of the name that's a longer version of the original name. Were you hoping she'd throw a fit so you'd look NTA and justified in just going ahead with Rose? Yeah, your sister is annoying for taking your name, but it seems to me it's in response to you attempting to hijack both your, and just as equally your sister's, grandmother's names from the jump. So really I don't see her as the here. Then after all that, you want to torture not only her kid but yours as well for their entire lives in the name of being petty by giving them the same name and stripping them both of their own identities. You shouldn't get a monopoly on all the grandmother names. You should have talked about this and figured out how to share, compromise. Rosalie is barely different than Rose. You don't seem to care that your kid will have the exact same name as someone else in her school, which will be super confusing. Your sister sucks for stealing Rosalie. Your mom sucks for knowing and not saying anything. Except your dad. Everyone is being petty AF. You, your sister, and your mom need to remember you're adults and act like it. YTA for the question in the title. Don't give your child the same name as their cousin because of stubbornness. Just move on and pick a different name. Esh. I would be miserable if I were in your family. You all sound immature and terrible. Esh. I think. That said, if they weren't going to the same school, I would be like, just go ahead and do what you want. But I think having two kids with the same exact name in the same school and grade sounds like an absolute nightmare, and I would not do that to myself as the parent. Let alone them. Wait till their standardized test scores get mixed up. Esh. Grief can make people do some weird and petty things. You're both tearing your family apart to honor someone who won't even be able to appreciate the gesture. This is a hill you will die on. Is it worth it? Eshi, don't feel like you were very considerate to your sister when she said she wanted to name her daughter for Nana Rose. You don't own rights to that name. Your sister was completely petty to take Rosalie though. That's awful of her and your mom to keep it secret. That said, I don't think you should name your new baby Rosalie too. If you don't bury the hatchet and move on, your children will be left to deal with the aftermath. My daughter has the same name as a cousin of my husband's, but I didn't even know her when my daughter was born. The cousin and my daughter are 15 years apart in age and don't share grandparents. When they have seen each other 2 times in 11 years. We laugh about having the two Jane Smiths being together. Even still, my daughter has asked why she has the same name as the other, Jane. I can't imagine if they saw each other all the time and were only months apart in age. I just keep picturing 2 little girls going to visit their grandparents and having to use initials or nicknames because they share a first name. Op. I encourage you to talk to your sister and mother honestly about how this has hurt your feelings and try to understand where your sister is coming from as well. Then move on and find something else for your new daughter. Your child needs family more than she needs your favorite name. I'm going to have to go with YTA here. Because your sister, though also a massive a-hole in her own right, is correct that 2 children with the same name, born and living in the same town, and being approximately the same age absolutely is going to cause them unending bureaucratic headaches later in life. Don't do that to your kid. Please. I'm sure I'm going against the grain, but YTA. They will be close in age. Close in geography. Same surname. That's too confusing if they have similar names. You named your daughter for Grandma A. She named her daughter for Grandma R. Her daughter was born first. She did not nick the name from you. She was upfront about planning to name after Grandma R. Now your best option is to give your baby Rose as a middle name. Esh. Sister is petty and sucks for stealing Rosalie. But you are making it just as big of a deal. What actual great lengths did you go to keep the name Rose available? Looking into another name? That's a bit of an exaggeration. It shouldn't be a contest over honoring Grandma. The fighting and petty childish name competition is reflective of selfish motivations rather than the honoring of someone deceased. Do what's best for your child. Shouldn't that matter more? What do you nickname someone named Rosalie? I'm guessing Rose. Esh, but I do think she has the right to the name Rose and names very very close to it. BC you had Annabelle. Your sisters. Weren't you taught to share? Esh. Sis for emotional immaturity and op for being, hypothetically, willing to make her kid face preventable issues regarding their personal identity. All for the sake of one name. Emo Rose and Rosalie are way too similar to have proposed from the start. They're going to be so close in age that sharing almost the same name would undoubtedly become Problematic for them. Esh. Your sister is definitely an AW for changing the name to Rosalie after you already said you were going to use that name. At the same time, you are an AW for being willing to put your kid through having the same name as their cousin, especially if they are living in the same area, will be in the same classes. Could you have her middle name be Rosalie? That way you are still honoring your grandma. But your child isn't going to grow up hating her name.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. AmITheAsshole is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.